It was 1987. Wait, that's not right. It was 2020, and the first Transcendence tier comes out. You know, when base Lufenia was still regarded for being quite difficult. Thus the last tier of this tower was released recently and on an odd number. Now that this has been completed and 16 being the last one, I wanted to discuss which tiers have been good, bad, and of course stale. Transcendence has been around since the basic Lufenia days, and it slowly changed into Shinryu stages with the introduction of tier 10, and it has been considered to be one of the endgame parts of Opera Omnia. Since there are quite a few bosses to discuss, I will only be focusing on the final bosses in the middle gates, and because this is Transcendence, answer this in the comments below. Your worst and most memorable tiers in Opera Omnia. Looking through the whole of Transcendence, it is clear that it has been an interesting ride throughout, with some tiers being the worst, some being so boring you may as well throw them into the ether, and the ones which I saw as fun and different. Throughout this video, I will only be discussing the middle gates, not the basic Lufenia fights. Yes, Lufenia is still a thing, but with the removal of Lufenia Plus, you can say that difficulty has been downgraded and insignificant. Anyway, 16 tiers, 16 middle bosses to go through. What am I doing with my life? The Lava Mascaras, the Fire Fans as I call them, the very first Transcendence fight. One of the worst and yet memorable mechanics I've come to respect the devs for within a boss fight. After reaching certain HP thresholds, they start to gain health, Brave gain, and you start to lose health. Tragic, isn't it? But they stood as being the more difficult bosses in Transcendence, and since it was the first tier, a lot was left to be desired. There is a reason why the devs call the middle gate Reckoning. This was a true example of that. A boss that showed no mercy with mechanics, and it hurt even more when you ran out of skills, only to be at 1 or 2% of their HP. True story. These bad boys, I'd say, are a good example of how to put your units in danger. I love it. I'd say this tier filled me with panic and dread, not because of the boss before them, who actually cares about the affix. The Mascaras have proven that with mechanics like that, who needs enemies? I wouldn't be surprised if the Mascaras come back at some point. Imagine them as Shinryu bosses with the same mechanics. Yo. The Parrots, the fallen Parrots I may add, yep, another boss that is not so great. Reversing the HP regen on your party, a mechanic that sounds dangerous and wonderful on paper, super. I actually wanted to see what these bird brains would do, knowing that these things just need more than 5 debuffs on them. They can easily be done through call abilities or Ferris, since that's when Aldi was released. Not so good. Yes, these birds sucked, and it was a letdown as far as I can remember. Yes, their feathers change white and they have that HP thing going for them. At the time they sounded scary, but they did not have enough bite to them. What else? The design is trash.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no.
With the most boring of tiers in Transcendence comes tier 3, the snake pods. You could arguably say they are at the bottom of the barrel, and while working on the script, I wondered if I was not being too harsh, but in my eyes that is not the case. The snake pods, while they seem dangerous, they're not so threatening, and they have always been forgotten in my head, just placed within the blacklist of my own mind. The Lufenia orb was also an easy one to control. HP healing, seriously. The snake pods are a variant or the reskin of the Medusa heads, the more superior version and the more annoying one too. But the snake pods are not special or memorable. The mechanics were no way near being something that could be seen as great, not even in their design, or the jarring sounds they borrowed from the Medusa heads could save them. Yes, you'd think that they would hiss, but no, they laugh. It's weird. Yep, snake pods, you'll always be forgotten. Now let's move on, shall we? The Grand Rocks. Look, I am not a fan of these things. I knew by looking at them, they should have been left in the draft, sonny. These things were a tad difficult for me at the time, mainly because I beat them without the burst. That was jarring, stressful, and almost an outright disaster. Mechanic wise, deal critical damage to them, fine, but take too many turns before them, yep. No damage. Not to mention those irritating ponies are before them, and if you take too many turns again, yep, no damage. I see Spiritus Pandemonium inherited this, that stupid Warcraft looking shit came back with that. I can't stand that thing, okay? Despite the Grand Rocks being the reskin of the infinitely pesky Sanctuary Keeper, I don't remember much about them. At the time they were difficult to defeat, I will admit. Transcendence 4 was a dreaded tier for many, but I knew I'd forget about them in T-2 days.
You did it, good job. I can't believe it, I'm proud of you.
The Royal Mummies. You know, I actually enjoyed this tier. 2 smaller mummies with a bigger one, get the smaller adds down to below 49% before the mummy gets to a certain threshold of its own HP. It's not bad. And yes, I remember when people were doom posting about the right gate in tier 5 saying,
"Oh, you need bots, otherwise you won't be able to beat it."
Bruh.
You do realize that Vaughn could also be used here and Fujin. Right? I mean, seriously, people panic over pixels, knowing full well it won't change anything to their lives. But anyway, this tier was actually a breath of fresh air to me. It just was difficult and it added more than I was expecting at the time. But then you realize what the next bosses are and you're just like,
You are a monstrosity of evil.
no, no, no. Why would you even do this to people? I despise this tier for a number of reasons. One, the Argent thingies came back. Yes, that boss. The one that wanted you to use Agrius in the last chapter or be left in the wasteland of failure. 2, annoying mechanics? Check. Heightening defenses and gaining tons of buffs? Check. Wanting to kill your party at any chance after floating in the air? Check. But the real misery comes within the next wave. Look, I hate these Manti bosses more than I can possibly put into words. Not only do they require a debuff requirement kind of thing, one that was applied again in the dreaded Transcendence 10 fight, they would cleanse those debuffs at 2 thresholds and you have to place them back onto them. I am not a fan of this boss at all. Yes, the Tiamats have always been stupid, but these shits solidified my hatred all the while. However, I will give them credit for bringing something new. Anyway, whoever likes this tier, I respectfully ask, what's wrong with you?
Okay.
The next boss to be a dumpster fire goes to the murder weapons. Yet another interesting design, but a forgotten boss. The murder weapons legit terrified me back in JP when they were first released, but after going against them, this ain't it, chief. The weapons are the reskin of the necromancers we can sometimes find in random encounters in other sections of the game, and for me, they were quite the refreshing design, and since seeing them the first time, I actually thought I could compare them to the Sergeant Imps and wonder if they would be different. I was wrong. These guys also had a simple Lufenia orb to control when you, the player, restore at least 20% of your max HP with your party and allowing them to take turns. Wow, how unique. I absolutely loved Lufenia orbs like that. Of course I'm joking, I wish. But the murder weapons I felt had more potential. For bosses that looked something like out of a fever dream, you'd think they'd be super annoying like the Sergeant Imps. Alas, they were not. That's why they'll always be at the bottom alongside the laughing snake jawbreakers.
Congratulations, you're a failure.
The Disaster Quartz. Okay, let's just get this Dragon Age ripoff out of the way. The final boss of Transcendence 8. Mechanically, the boss has 3 phases, or HP bars if you will. The first one, not bad. Second one, a bit iffy, but not bad either. The last one is a gift that keeps on giving, and not in a memorable way. Either you let the boss take its turn so it can smack you, or you sit and suffer because you can't kill it. The Quartz, just because of that last HP, was just an annoyance. However, a good way to punish those who thought delaying it to oblivion would lead them to victory. Nah, chief. Again, why do the best designed bosses get the short end of the stick? I don't get it. Disaster Quartz, you will be remembered as one of the bosses in Opera Omnia. A shame, really.
My God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm. Everybody stay calm.
The Angerhawks. Yes, I am aware of what these chicken heads can do. Anyone who can tell you about this stage will tell you that it's downright silly. 60 million HP each, thresholds that help the Hawks gain buffs and reduce the Lufenia orb by 3 for every buff they gain. But it's like the saying, no pain, no gain. and this tier provided a lot of pain and that it was a very long fight. Vincent was the highly recommended unit for this tier, but people were able to defeat the Hawks without him, and I respect that because I'm too lazy to think of team compositions. The problem with these Hawks was not only the orb, but the HP thresholds of gaining buffs, and not only that, the shields they placed on themselves. I felt that this tier was the calm before the storm when it came to bosses having shields. Spiritus Brothers was like the tip of the iceberg in terms of shields. Oh wait, no, Beatrix Intertwined Worlds was. Yep, that's the one. Like those shields are going to stop our characters. I mean really. The Anglehawks are known for having a long fight due to how much HP they have, and for some people it could be the worst. I can see why. They suck, and they will always suck. Ah, the Lean Machine Disaster Machine. I'm sorry. Now this hunk of junk is a bad boss, not because of its design, but it dared to be a ripoff of tier 5 and tier 6 middle gates. Who thought this boss was a good idea? Is jy mal? Is jy van jou kop af? I spoke Afrikaans for those who wish to know. Not only can you not deal damage to it, it will warp, you need to adhere to the debuff requirements, and you have to make sure the sweepers right next to it are below a certain amount of HP, otherwise you're clapped. But the cherry on top was when you got it to below 40%. This is where the circles of hell open up. That machine begins to heal itself like a bloody rash on the back that won't go away. You have to deal a lot of damage to that thing before it can go and commit die. Who approved of this? Why was this even considered? Like every embarrassing moment in my life, it should have been kept in the drafts. Alongside other terrible bosses that may have been the bane of my existence since Chaos Era. However, I've always considered this. Is tier 10 really the worst one? I don't know, for me it's between tier 10 and tier 6. I actually can't decide.
I am disgusted.
The Armalos. Needle Shower is an attack that is dangerous, but it doesn't actually kill you. Not only that, their force cage compiles of different effects, genetic debuffs, paralysis debuffs, and those will never not be irritating, and looking like spiky dogs doesn't help their case, not in the least. The Armalos look like they would be a challenge, and one that I probably wouldn't have liked anyway, just like the murder weapons, but they were an actual disappointment, and tier 11 looks more like a Milli Vanilli CD in the dumpster. A forgotten memory stored where? That's right, the blacklist of my mind. Tier 11, you had promise of the tier 10. Too bad that tier was misery and you were mediocrity.
Really, Queen?
Now this one, I have mixed feelings when it comes to this tier. It was weird to say the least. First of all, I didn't know what these things were doing when I did this fight in JP. I assumed that the Red Order was a bad omen and I just rolled with it. But looking back at this tier, man, this was hard to swallow. This boss would spawn 2 others at below 50% and then they can just die after that. Yes, the brave regen they gain is dangerous, but it's not like you can't heal the damage. I mean, the warping is fine, a force time that only lasts 2 turns. I was left speechless, like, that's it? That's all they can do? What a letdown. I thought that after the mediocrity hellscape that was Transcendence 11, that things would be different, and these bosses would bring something distinctive, but nope, they weren't it, chief.
Whoa! Hold up!
Now this tier took me by surprise, and no, not because we can get it.
Whoa, nah.
But I enjoyed this tier. Here we face the weird heads, starting at wave 1, then 2, then 3. These things do some interesting stuff, and this is a major reason as to why this tier stands out to me. Wave 1 has 3, and you have to get them down to a certain HP threshold in order for them to go commit die. Wave 2 has 2 weird heads, and they will continuously attack you and try to kill your party members. Wave 3 has only 1 boss, and of course, this one has more HP than the rest. The one thing that took me as surprise was wave 1. Failed to get their HP down, and one of them will be resurrected. However, those aren't the only reasons. The theme within this tier, keep one of your party members' HP below 50% or meet failure. What a novel concept. So yes, I actually like this tier. Within the boarding bowels and the hellscape of the Dissidia dump heap comes the Dissolved Rakes, a boss within Transcendence 14. But these Notre Dame gargoyles don't provide anything worth remembering. The fact that Rubicante can solo this is astounding to me. They do have this regen effect when hitting below 79, and I believe 29 of their HP they gain this blue aura, and you have to put the debuff that has 3 or more stacks or something. I can't remember. But once you've checked that, That's it. What a marvelous concept. Not. The only thing that I remember is that their force time lasts for 15 turns. Not much, since the Hull House has a force time of 20 turns. Spiritus Ramu also has this, but there it actually matters. This tier is like a turd made of stale glue or watching the Easter Bunny get shot. What an absolute letdown.
Better scramble like an egg before you get folded like an omelet.
Wow, this was something. Yes, the bosses have HP gates. What else? The force ability doesn't hurt you. You can use a magic FR ability, yeah? Yep. Look, this was a pretty average tier. Nothing new, nothing old, just average. Smack their health down to a certain amount of HP within a certain amount of turns. That's about it. So, yep, not much to add, honestly. Just average.
Wow.
Okay, I get it. They brought back Shinryu since he was the first Lufenia boss released within this game. Yay, what a wonderful memory. But given from what I have gathered from this final tier and through my own attempts at it, it would seem to be a better stage than most. Not because Shinryu replenishing his health all the time or being a slight rehash of the previous fight, the very first Lufenia fight, but it is nice. Just nice. Do I think that it was a deserving conclusion to Transcendence? No, I do not. It was an average sentiment to bring back Shinryu, but this is what I thought what would happen. Bring back all of the bosses, get them past with relative ease before heading into a final boss that is Shinryu difficulty. Maybe Shinryu could have been the final one or something else, but you know, as much as I don't like Shinryu being the last boss of Transcendence, it is better than nothing. Newer players will have an easier time getting through this tower, and that is nice for them. I say that Transcendence was best experienced when a new tier was released. The moments were fresh for me, and seeing what the bosses could do without any expectations was just more fun for me. It gave a small rush discovering what the Reckoning Gates could do and what strategies you might try out when tackling them. It gave a sense of different ways you could get your rewards from Transcendence, and the next tier could prove to be irritable or just downright stupid. But overall, not a bad addition of the entropy. I liked it. I liked it a lot. And so ends this video. Alongside Transcendence overall, what is to come for Dimensions End? Don't know. Maybe they'll add some additional tier, I don't know. I hope that whatever comes will be similar to what Transcendence has given to us, and maybe we could see some bosses come through, even some old ones or even new ones. Who knows? Transcendence was quite the spectacle in its own way. Bad tiers, good tiers, and even just average tiers. For now, we shall see for what is to come for the future of Dimensions End, and I will be watching out for when it will be announced. I do thank you for watching the video, and if you did enjoy it, consider giving it a like. But if you didn't like it, then I still thank you for watching it, and I will see you next time. Bye!